Hi everybody, I thought I'd come with my second video now that I'm back from my hiatus, but again, I don't want to put out videos for the sake of putting out videos. This one I put out maybe about a month ago, but I didn't feel it had enough information. But this time I thought I added a little bit more detail. It might be a tad long, but I think it's important nonetheless. But anyways, this video will be about Daniel's timeline, Daniel's 70th week, and the second coming of Christ twice, not once. And I'll show another video on the Giza Pyramid timeline, which I believe is according to Isaiah 19 verses 19 through 20, the altar to the Lord, which is in the midst of Egypt. Anyways, this video will be about Daniel's timeline and the second coming of Christ twice, and I'll show you what I believe to be 100% in my opinion both days, and I'll get into that now. So to find out when the two times that Christ will be returning, you have to go to Daniel's timeline, in particular Daniel 9:25, which reads, "Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks." And so that means that when the command went forth to restore and build Jerusalem until the return of Christ, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, and these aren't literal weeks, these are actually feast of weeks, as well as a period of 7 years per week. So looking at these weeks as being 1 week equals to 7 years, then there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The 7 weeks would be 49 years, so 7 weeks times 7, and 62 weeks will be 62 weeks times 7, or 434 years. So then Daniel 25 means from the command there will be a span of 49 years plus 434 years, equaling a total of 483 years until the second coming of Christ. So once you know when the command was issued to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, then you'll know when the second coming of Christ is, once you know when this command is issued, and then there shall be the 7 weeks and the 62 weeks, or 483 years. Well, in 1538, Sultan Suleiman, or Suleiman the Magnificent, Suleiman I, ordered or commanded that the ruined city walls be rebuilt. And this is when Jerusalem was under the Ottoman Empire control, which started in 1535. And so the inscription on this wall here, which was on the northern wall, which was constructed first, took place in the year 1538, and the inscription reads, "The construction of this wall was ordered by our Lord the Sultan, Suleiman bin Sultan Salim Khan, in the year 949, and this is in the Arabic calendar, which equates to 1538 AD in the Gregorian calendar. And furthermore, the wall was built under troublous times, which is also mentioned in Daniel 9:25. So from 1532 to 1555, the Ottomans were engaged with the Ottoman Safavid war when the wall was built. So this was the first time that the command was issued, and again that was in the year 1538 AD on the Gregorian calendar. So this pertains to both the restoration and the rebuilding of Jerusalem, because it says that the street shall be built again and the wall, even in troublesome times. And like I said, the Ottoman Empire was undergoing the Ottoman Safavid war at that time in 1538. So since the restoration of the wall took place, the northern wall was built first, and then the other walls took another 4 years to build. But the command was issued firstly in 1538. So if you add the 62 weeks, or 434 years, to 1538, you get 1972 which again, there was a second command that went forth after the Six-Day War in 1967 to rebuild and restore the old city of Jerusalem. So that was a dual prophecy both in 1538 and 1972. Plus, not only the 62 weeks, you add another 69 weeks or 49 years more. So you get 1972 plus 49 years. And that brings us to the year 2021 AD. And this will be the first return of Christ in that year. So based on the timeline of the 7 weeks and 62 weeks or 483 years, we know that Christ's first return will be in the year 2021. But weeks also means, according to Strong's Hebrew 7620, weeks also means Shavuot, which means Feast of Weeks, and we call that Pentecost. So Shavuot, or Feast of Weeks, the Hebrew meaning is Shavuot, which means weeks, but the English meaning, we understand it as Pentecost, or Feast of Weeks, and it's also the offering of the first fruits, or the Feast of First Fruits. And on the Western calendar, it usually occurs during, or it does occur during the month of May and June, but on the Hebrew or Jewish calendar, it occurs specifically on the third month of Sivan, on the 6th through the 7th day. So then, not only can we determine what year 2021, we can also determine from the Jewish calendar, Sivan 6 through 7, when Christ will return, the specific date. So for the first return of Christ, like I said, 2021 AD, and then Shavuot on 2021 on the Hebrew calendar, which is Sivan, the 6th through the 7th day, that translates to the 16th through the 17th of May, 2021. So this will be the day, or over these 2 days, that will be the second coming of Christ the first time. And this will be, because it's the Feast of First Fruits, it will be, according to the Bible, the dead resurrect first. So the first resurrection and the first fruits of the 144,000. So many of us know from 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 16 through 17, that it says, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ will rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So shall we ever be with the Lord." However, this will not occur for every Christian the first time. There will be the elect, in which the days will be shortened and they will have to endure more of the tribulation. There will be the tribulation saints. There will be the foolish virgins that won't be wise. And there will be Christians who profess to be Christians who are not going to make the cut. But they will have a second chance in order to make it. But they will have to endure a lot more tribulation than the first go around. The first time we will have to endure some tribulation. Like the belief that there will be no tribulation is incorrect and false. I know some will disagree with me, but I don't believe that is the case. But there will be those who will miss this first time and will have a chance the second time to make it. If you don't make it the second time, you will undergo the wrath of God. But you don't want to be here. I'm telling you, you don't want to be here for the second go around unless you're one of the elect in which you're protected by God. Because you will have the second trumpet in which a meteor the size of a mountain will hit probably the Atlantic Ocean because it's 1/3 of the waters. Then followed by the third trumpet, which is wormwood. Later on, the fifth trumpet, which will be Satan cast to the earth, and his tail will draw 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth, that being a comet, thus it having a tail. So please try and make it if you can, if all possible. Please change your life or get it in order, get your house in order to make this first go around, which will be May 16th and May 17th in a couple of years in 2021. But also May 17th, 2021 ends up being the 1335th day, the blessed day that is mentioned in Daniel 12. But this is back to September 20th, 2017, which is 3 days prior to the Revelation 12 sign, which was on the 23rd of September. But if you watch the video by the YouTube channel Daniel's Week, which is the Oracle in Stone, so there was a sign also 3 days earlier from the Pyramid of Giza on September 20th, 2017, followed by 3 days later being the Revelation 12 sign. 1,335 days later brings you to May 17, 2021, the second coming of Christ for the first time. So I want to conclude with the first return of Christ, which will be on the 1,335th day, the blessed day, May 16 through 17, 2021. And as it says in Revelation 26, blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. So there will be a resurrection, firstly, not the rapture, and then those who are alive and remain will follow. Then Daniel 12:12 says, blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1,305 and 35 days, or 1,335 days. And on that calendar I just showed, that was May 17th, 2021. Now moving on to the return of Christ the second time, and this pertains to the abomination of desolation. I think there's a dual prophecy with this as well, but please stay and watch this second part because you don't know which one you will partake in, and it's important to know if you have loved ones or other family members. So there will be a second chance to make it into God's heavenly kingdom. So please stick around and watch this part as well. So the second coming of Christ, the second time, pertains to the abomination of desolation. So it reads in Matthew 24:15 that, therefore when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by the prophet, by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. So most of us believe that the abomination of desolation is yet to come, and there could be a dual prophecy, as there are many times in the Bible. But there was also an abomination of desolation that occurred with the construction of the Dome of the Rock in 688 AD. So abomination of desolation in Hebrew is this word, which I'm not even going to attempt to try, but it literally means an abomination that desolates, or an abomination that appalls. And so, like I said, I'm not sure if it's just a single event. There was one in 688 AD, but there's likely two. So what was the abomination of desolation that occurred in 688 AD? Well, so as I just said, the abomination of desolation means an abomination that desolates or an abomination that appalls. But it also says in Matthew 24:15 that it stands in the holy place, and let the reader understand. So standing in the Bible is Strong's Greek 2476, which means to place, to put, or to set in place. But it also says standing in the holy place. Well, the holy place is the Holy of Holies, or the Most Holy as it's called, which is where the Ark of the Covenant sat, and that was the most inner part of the sanctuary of God's temple. For example, in Solomon's temple. So the Holy of Holies, only the priest could enter that once a year on the Day of Atonement, and the lid of the Ark of the Covenant is called the mercy seat, which we know is Jesus Christ. Well, I started thinking, well, what is standing in the holy place now, which is the Temple Mount, that is an abomination that desolates? And I was thinking to myself, well, what stands in the holy place today on the Temple Mount? Well, it's the Dome of the Rock. Well, what are some ways that it's become desolate? Well, until the mid-20th century, since 1967, non-Muslims have been permitted to enter the site, but prayer is forbidden for non-Muslims. So And also visiting hours for non-Muslims. The Temple Mount can be visited Sunday through Thursday, but in the summer the hours are limited from 8:30 to 10:30 and from 1:30 to 2:30. So just 3 hours a day in the summer, and then the winter from October to March from 7:30 to 10:30 and then 12:30 to 1:30. So 4 hours in the winter time. So the Temple Mount is closed to tourists on Fridays, Saturdays, and during Muslim holidays. And sometimes the Temple Mount can be closed without notice. And so I don't believe most Christians are aware of how desolate the Temple Mount has become to non-Muslims, and that it in fact is an abomination. And also the Dome of the Rock is assumed to be built directly on the spot of the Holy of Holies, right directly in the center of the foundation rock, which is in the center of the Dome of the Rock. And if that's true, then the Dome of the Rock does stand, or it's placed directly on the spot of the holy place or the Holy of Holies. And also to provide more proof, in my opinion and others as well, that the Dome of the Rock was the abomination of desolation that occurred during its construction in 688 AD, here are some passages of the inscription that you find on the walls of the both the inner and outer walls of the Dome of the Rock. So I just pulled out a few passages, but they all deny and denounce the deity of Jesus Christ. So on the outer wall, I'll go ahead and read these. These were translated from Arabic. It says, "There is no God but God. He is one. He has no associate. Mohammed is the messenger of God. Praise be to God, who hath not taken unto himself a son, who hath no partner in the sovereignty, nor hath he any protecting friend through dependence, and magnifying him with all magnificent. Mohammed is the messenger of God." So it's a pretty lengthy one. It's on all 8 sides, and most of it is denying Jesus Christ. On the inner one, it actually goes even more blatant. It says, "The Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, was only a messenger of God, and his word, which he conveyed unto Mary, and the Spirit from him. So believe in God and his messengers, and say not 3, in other words, the Holy Trinity, cease. God is only one God. From far be it removed from his transcendence majesty that he should have a son. He is all that is in the heavens and all that is in the earth, and God is sufficient as defender. The Messiah will never scorn to be a servant unto God, nor will be favored, nor with the favored angels." Well, excuse my terrible reading, but these are both on the outside. It goes on to say that there's only one God, and the only messenger of God is Muhammad, and that he doesn't need a son. And then it goes on the outside that it actually says the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, was only a messenger of God. Say not 3, as in the Holy, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, cease. So the temple, the Dome of the Rock, vehemently denies, and it states Jesus in particular as not being a deity nor the Son of God. So that is in fact an abomination, truly a great abomination against Jesus Christ and God Almighty. So the Dome of the Rock is in fact standing in the holy place and is an abomination that desolates. And the construction of the Dome of the Rock started from, the consensus is from 687 to 688, but I believe it more to be 688, and I'll show you how I came with the second date of Christ's return. So in Daniel 9:24, it says 70 weeks or 490 years are determined for your people and for your holy city, in other words, the Jews in Jerusalem, to finish the transgression, to make the end of sin all the way to the end, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy, which is Jesus Christ. Well, 70 weeks again, is 70 times 7, or 490 years. So reading further down in Daniel 9, verse 26, it says, "And after 62 weeks, or 434 years, Messiah shall be cut off or crucified, but not for himself." So earlier I said 70 weeks minus 62 weeks would leave 8 weeks. In other words, 56 years, 8 times 7. And that is the remaining time to fulfill Daniel's 490 years mentioned here for your people in your holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the Holy One. So the completion of the 56 years is not going to occur until your people and your holy city, the Jews in Jerusalem, are back until Jerusalem is back in the Jewish possession. Well, that didn't occur until Jerusalem was captured by Israel during the Six-Day War on June 10th of 1967. So if we have 56 years remaining, and this was the time that Jerusalem became back in Jewish possession, I can't say that, but anyways, so that would be 1967 plus the 56 years. That would bring you to the year 2023 AD for Christ's second coming for the second time. Well, the second time that Christ comes, there's also a second 1,335 only years in this case, which is the blessed year. So if you add 1,335 years to 688 AD, again, you come to the year 2023, and this will be the second time that Christ comes. And again, like I said, you have this second chance for yourself or family members, but you don't want to go beyond this, because then you will enter into the wrath of God and there's no return. I had the date July 19, 2023, but the days are shortened. I'll show this in another video with the Giza Pyramid timeline. So I hope to have that video coming soon, so you see how I arrived at the September 23rd, 2022 date. That's the timeline that it's been shortened to from the July 19th, 2023 date. Amazingly, it's exactly 5 years after the Revelation 12 sign. I won't say amazing, that's probably exactly how God would do it. But anyways, I hope to have that video coming soon so you can see with your own eyes how I came to that date. But I'll just present it here as being shortened to the second time that Christ comes will be September 23rd, 2022. So I'll conclude with these comments. Well, many will say that the abomination of desolation already occurred with Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who desecrated a pig on the altar to Zeus in the Jewish temple. But this occurred in 167 BC, before Christ was born. However, Christ said in these two verses here in Matthew 24:15 and Mark 13:14 that, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet," and in Mark 13:14, so when you see the abomination of desolation, this seems to be, Christ is talking about a future event, not the event that Antiochus Epiphanes IV did in the temple of God. No doubt that was an abomination, but this occurred in 167 BC, and Christ is referring to a future abomination of desolation. This is an abomination of desolation, but it's not the abomination of desolation again. And Christ goes on to say that when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, that for then there will be great tribulations, such as not since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And so from that verse, you know that greater tribulation, other than the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple at that time in 70 AD, or in 167 BC has occurred in the world, including 2 world wars, and those are far greater than the tribulation that occurred at that time. So I do not believe that the abomination of desolation was due to, or the event that Antiochus IV Epiphanes, due to the desecration of the temple at that time. And finally, let me address the comment that I see a lot of times in my videos, but no one knows the day or the hour. So in Matthew 24:36, it says, "But concerning that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only." However, this is taken out of context. If you read one verse earlier, it says in Matthew 24:35, "Heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will not pass away." So no one will know when heaven and earth will pass away, but God only. But this is not concerning the second coming of Christ. This is concerning the passing away of heaven and earth. So that's taken out of context. Also, the book of Revelation itself means the revealing of Christ, and more so the revealing of the second coming of Christ, since Christ already came. Also, Jesus said that he has foretold us all things, and he would come as a thief in the night for those who are not watching, and to watch. Also, that we are not in darkness, but we're in the light. And if we were in darkness, we would not see these things coming, and they would come upon us as thieves in the night. Also, Jesus, when the apostles asked him, "What are the signs of your coming?" Jesus told the apostles of all of the signs of his coming, his second coming. So why would he tell the apostles of what, and to be watchful and revealing in the book of Revelation of all the signs, if he did not want us to know when his second coming is? He wants us to know when he's coming. And then finally in Daniel, which I just covered in this video, the archangel Gabriel told Daniel when Christ would be coming. It says, "From the beginning of the command, there will be 7 weeks and 62 weeks until Messiah the Prince, until he comes." So he gives you the information to determine the exact dates of both comings of Jesus Christ. And again, I said on the September 23rd, 2022 timeframe, the second time, I'll discuss in another video for you to see, so you can be as Bereans and test it for yourself. So again, there will be 2 second comings of Christ, one on the 16th through 17th of May 2021, which will be coming up in less than 2 years, and then the second one a year and a half later on September 23rd, 2022. Please be as Bereans and test all the information I presented. Make sure it makes sense to you. If you have any comments, please put them in the comment section below, and I'll try and answer as many as I can. And again, I do believe we can know the day, but not the hour, and that verse is taken out of context. And Jesus has equipped us with all of the information we could possibly have so that we can be watchful and know exactly when his second coming is both times. Anyways, please be aware of these 2 dates, especially the first one, and if not, the second one. May 16th through 17th, 2021. I think it's more the 17th because that is the 1335th day from September 20th, 2017, 3 days before the Revelation 12 sign. And I'll put a link below to that video on the oracle and stone. And the second one, September 23rd, 2022, and I'll try and get the video out within a month's time frame so that you can see why it's shortened to this date. But it lands up exactly on September 23rd. So God has shortened the time from 7 years of Daniel's 70th week down to 5 years. So that's a great blessing, but it is going to be terrible tribulation beyond what we could humanly fathom. So anyways, I hope this video has been a blessing to you and has provided you information with the second coming of Christ 2 times, 16 May through 17 May. I believe more so the 17th of May because of the 1335th day, and then September 23rd, 2022. So all of these events are coming up within a few years time frame. So please be watchful, and again, be Bereans and test my information that I've presented and see if it makes biblical sense to you. And anyways, I'll stop here. I'm at about the 30-minute point, and I will talk to you soon, and I hope to bring out my next video on the Giza timeline, which breaks out why it's shortened to this time frame and all of the events that unfolds the timeline that is for Daniel's 70th week. So I'll let you go, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.